Students, welcome to the Grade R Diploma in Teaching, Year 1, Semester 1, Session 3. We're going to be looking at the RWIL 111, Year 1, Semester 1, and we're going to unpack the portfolio of evidence. So what do I need to do in a nutshell? You must schedule 15 days at your school for RWIL. In RWIL, you will observe lessons and not teach them. You will have to observe 5 lessons. These lessons must be presented by a qualified grade R teacher or a foundation phase teacher. You will keep a reflective journal where you reflect on your work experience, your mentor and the school. You will also do a daily reflection of what happened for the 15 days. Just going back to the point on your 5 lessons, observe 5 lessons. Again, please make sure that the teacher is qualified. So what do I need to do in a nutshell? Again, when enrolling, you selected a mentor at your school. The mentor must sign off all the documents in Section 2. This will be to confirm that you have observed the 5 lessons and that you attended the 15 days and a general impression about you. If not signed by the mentor, NWU will not mark it. Who can be a mentor? Your principal or the deputy principal, a foundation phase head of department from grade R to 3, a qualified grade 1 teacher with at least 5 years teaching experience, or a qualified grade R teacher with at least 5 years teaching experience. You will also need to do 2 tasks in the first portfolio. One is the Math Center and the other is dealing with a hyperactive child. You will also do academic reflections, one for each academic module. And we will be going through this. We will guide you through all this. So let's go ahead and look at the detail now. Getting your portfolio ready. Remember, the portfolio is an extension of who you are. The due date is the 23rd of May, 2020. Make use of the resources, so use your USB recordings, the RWIL admin book, your study guide. And the RWIL admin book includes the forms and templates to be used for Year 1, 2, and 3 of the Grade R Diploma in Teaching. Please make sufficient copies of the forms and templates in the RWIL admin book for the submission of your portfolios. So you will need 15 days daily reflection, so make sure you have 15 copies of the daily reflection. You should have received these copies for RWIL 111. You have to choose 15 days in the first semester to do the assessments. Please don't leave this to the last moment. If you get the first submission right, you are set for other submissions. When you present your portfolio, use a ring binder or a file. But please remember also the file will not be returned to you. Each section must be separated by a divider and labeled accordingly. Use the content list provided to structure the portfolio. You need to list all the sources that you used in the bibliography after each task. Be tidy and present it in a professional way. Never leave out a section. There are 4 sections. This will make you fail the portfolio. Remember, the portfolio is the extension of who you are. So divide your portfolio up into the following sections, and please use the content page and follow the checklist. The first thing you're going to have are your student and mentor details. Then in section 1, it's the reflective portfolio. Section 2, the evidence of learning. Section 3, evidence of work integrated assessment tasks. And section 4, the supplementary evidence of professional development. And then please don't forget to include your marking rubric. 50% must be achieved in each section to pass your RWIL 111. So use the following checklist. It is available in your admin book. So as you putting your portfolio together, look at that checklist and tick off so you make sure that you do not leave anything out. Also make sure in section 1, where you need to put the school stamp on those forms, ensure that the school stamp is there so you don't lose marks. And then your mentor details. Remember, you need to put in your student number, your surname, your initials, and please take note of the rubric. Also, your school details. Please ensure you put the correct name of the school, the correct address, the correct telephone numbers. That's very, very important. Your mentor details as well. Please make sure you get their ID number, their name, current occupation. That is very important as well. Then in section 1, let's just break up the sections bit by bit. What is the reflection? The reflection section of the portfolio is very important. The reason being, it shows that you are able to think about what you, the mentor, and other teachers are doing. It's a self-reflection. It's all about best practice. So what worked, what didn't work, and how can this be improved? It works towards you becoming a self-regulated professional. So section 1, all your reflection tasks are there and they must be completed. So you must complete my reflective journal. It's in your RWIL admin book. You must keep your daily reflections, so the journal, for 15 days. Reflect on one incident that happened in your class that that provided you as a teacher with a valuable learning opportunity. Make sure you have 15 copies of the daily reflections and then complete 15 and submit 15. You will lose marks if you do not include all of them. We are now going to show you some of the examples of how to complete the forms. Please do not use the exact words. Remember, we spoke about plagiarism. Use these as an example for yourself of what is needed, but do your own work and use your own school and your own knowledge and experience. So there's your reflective journal. You'll write about your previous experience, your previous work-related experience, and then also information about your mentor. So an example here, you'd put in your student, your school, and your town, your previous work experience. So there's an example. I worked as a grade R practitioner since 2001 and have an NQF level 4 qualification. I have been at my present school since 2009. So something on the lines of that. Then my previous work-related experience, I worked as a general assistant at the school for 2 years. Personal information of your mentor. So there's your name, Mrs. C. Dlamini, B.Ed Foundation Phase UNISA. Mentor's previous experience. Mrs. Dlamini started teaching in 1996. She has taught grade 1 and 2 for over 50 years and is now a grade R teacher at the school where I am employed. So please put in that detail. Then in your reflective journal, please also, when you're thinking about your background to the school, mention how many learners there are, how many grades there are, and as you can see in this example, 2 grade R classes, 2 grade 1 classes, 2 grade 2 classes, 2 grade 3, and then they've actually put in the number of learners in each respective class. So please do a similar thing. Here's an example of a reflective journal, the strengths and weaknesses of the school. The school's classes are quite large and this is quite difficult for the teachers to manage. There are 3 teacher assistants who help out in grade R and grade 1. They rotate between the classes. The school is a public school, so try to hold fundraisers to bring in funds for the upkeep of the school. The majority of the learners coming to school rely on public transport, example taxis and buses, to get to school. The school is a fee-paying school and the fees are $25,000 per learner per year. Many of the parents battle to pay the fees and there are a number of families in arrears. The school does have an extramural program. The learners play soccer and hockey. There is also an art club and aftercare centre was started last year to cater for learners who are only collected from school after 4 p.m. The parents pay a fee for the service. So you can see that there's quite a lot of detail and we can get a clear picture of the issues at the school. The strengths and weaknesses to carry on. The strengths of the school are they have a very good management team and a supportive SGB, and they have the needs of the learners at heart. There is a small library at the school, and they have had a fundraiser to buy more books and 5 computers for the library. The staff are involved in professional development and attend regular workshops to keep abreast of the new changes in teaching and learning. So there are the strengths. The weaknesses, a lack of sufficient funding. Many parents do not pay school fees on time, and there is not always funding to buy resources. Desks are old and new teaching equipment is needed, and the learning and teaching materials are sometimes not enough for all classes. The learners travel far and are often late due to transport issues. There's a high rate of absenteeism, so many learners miss important concepts as they miss school often. The classes are large, and this makes teaching a challenge sometimes. The grade R's have a very small playground area, so it is a challenge when doing outdoor activities. Then special needs identified in the community. The community is a very diverse one, with learners coming from different African countries, thus speaking various languages. Many parents are blue-collar workers and earn a minimum wage. The school population comprises of learners coming from child-headed households, single-parent families, foster care, and extended families. Many live in overcrowded flats in an area, and there is quite a high level of crime and degeneration in the area. There is a park in the area with a recreation centre that some of the learners go to in the afternoon, and the centre offers dancing and karate classes. There have been increased numbers of vagrants in the park, and many parents have stopped their children going to the park. The community clinic used to operate 5 days a week, but has recently cut this time down to 3 days a week. There are 4 churches in the area, 2 Catholic churches, a Methodist church, and an Anglican one, and they have been very active in assisting the community with special needs, such as drug, alcohol, and family counselling, food parcels for families in need, collecting clothing and school uniforms for learners. They serve meals to the community when the need arises. And then another part of the reflection, my role as a teacher or teacher student in the school. I have a grade R class. There are 37 learners in my class. Besides teaching my class, I am also the member of the library committee who meet once a month, and I assist the other teachers by doing duty twice a week in the library, helping learners, covering books, putting books on the shelves, and completing monthly stock taking. I also attend meetings and workshops run by the GDE and our cluster group. I draw up the break duty roster each term. So there's your daily reflection journal. Remember, you have to do a reflection every day and it cannot be the same. One of your 5 reflection days and thereafter one of the 15 daily reflections will be on the day you present your Will You Be My Mother lesson. So remember that one of those reflections must have that in them. You will see when you work through your PoE requirements that this is a section required in Section 3, Task 2, Step 5. Use the reflective journal to reflect on the strengths and weaknesses of the learning experience. So place this specific daily reflection not only in Section 1, where you have the 15 reflections, but also in Section 3 as part of the task. So remember, for that one, make sure you've got a copy of that in Section 2 as well. Section 1, all your reflection tasks, then you'll have your 4 academic modules and you'll find the form in your RWIL admin book. 1 page per academic module. Don't include the year modules. Remember to make copies of each. So you will be writing academic reflections on life skills, personal well-being, RWIL 111, handwriting proficiency, RHWP 111, Technology and Computer Literacy for Educators, RTCL 111, and Fundamental Academic Literacy and Support, RFLS 111. All 4 must be submitted or your portfolio will be returned. And that's what your academic module reflection looks like. So please remember, there it is on the slide. Those are the ones you must do. Example of an academic reflection journal, the implications of this content of this module for my professional knowledge, consult the study unit. This module is very important and it is a year module and central to what a grade R practitioner will use in the classroom. The module is divided up into 2 main sections, learning and teaching, both necessary to develop the knowledge we need to teach and ensure that the learners are learning. The module guide mentioned that this is the core business of educational institutions. Here's another example where you're looking at professional knowledge. It is therefore necessary for us to gain important knowledge about how we go about teaching and how teaching affects the outcomes and the way in which children learn. The module unit guides our learning process and we develop a knowledge of young children, growing, thinking and learning, cognitive views of learning and motivation, participative learning, curriculum and content analysis, which enriches our knowledge. And here's the professional skills part. The module content is linked to practice as it shows us that teaching and learning are acts and that we need to learn the act of teaching and discover that it is made up of a number of different ways in which to deliver the content. We use a number of different teaching strategies to develop the learner's skills. For example, in maths, we learn about a constructivist way of teaching, whereby we develop the learner's knowledge by finding out what they already know and building on this, using skills such as counting, hands-on activities, sorting objects, etc., so that they can practice skills to gain knowledge. And then the last bit there with professional skills, we learn about the practice through the units, teaching methods and teaching learning media, assessing and teaching and classroom management. All these topics assist us with developing skills, and if we link these to the professional knowledge, we gain important aspects which allow us to integrate the theoretical and the practical knowledge we need in a grade R classroom. And then when we look at professional attitude and values, the module has made me think more carefully about the learners I have in my classroom and what considerations I make when I'm planning lessons and developing tasks. I realize I have to have a good knowledge of the development of my learners and ensure that these tasks I set are developmentally appropriate in line with the CAPS curriculum, and that I am ensuring that I have a good knowledge of cognitive views of learning and the different teaching strategies I can use to develop the skills my learners need to practice. For professional attitude and values, the implications of the content, I've also realized that this module links to other modules I am completing in this course, so it is necessary to be aware of the ways in which teaching and learning play an important role in all learning areas. I have also realized that learners learn through different modalities, the visual, auditory, and kinesthetic, and I need to be aware of this when planning for teaching and learning. Learners learn in different ways as well, so this has changed my attitude towards how I plan my lessons and activities. I am more aware, let me go back there. I am more aware of this in my teaching. And then professional knowledge and values in terms of the content and implications with honesty and sincerity and inclusiveness. An important change in my view was to consider how important motivation is and the role it plays in learning. I did not really think about this before, but learning about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation has made me aware that these two aspects of motivation are very important components of learning. I have learnt that the curriculum plays an important role in teaching and learning. And then the implications of the module for your teaching practice. This content has made me more aware of the learners in my class and the way in which I work with them. I have realized that there are so many things to think about when planning lessons, activities, and assessments, and a good teacher must have a good knowledge of theory and practice. I did not know about a constructivist way of learning, and this has made me think about the way in which children learn. Also, implications for my teaching practice continued, learning about different strategies that help me think of better ways to work with my learners, like the Maths Center for RMaths 171 and the activities for handwriting RHWP 111. Planning these activities for my teaching portfolio showed how I need to have a knowledge of theory and how to plan for activities for practice. And then section 1, there is your marking rubric. So let's summarize section 1. You have a reflection journal where you answer questions on your work experience, the mentor and the school. You've got your 15 daily reflections of the observations at school and what happened every day for the 15 days you were there. And then you have your 4 academic reflections on the subjects covered, all about the subject itself. How does the theory impact on your teaching practice, and how do you use this knowledge that you gained? So section 2 then is all the administrative and formative assessments. All the forms in section 2 must be signed by the mentor and stamped by the school. If this is not done, you will fail the section. So you will have your mentor rubrics for task 1 and task 2 completed, signed and stamped. The mentor will also use the rubrics to assess your tasks. The mentor must give you a mark for both tasks and include the percentage. Please make sure this is done. We will also discuss task 1 and task 2 soon, but keep in mind that your mentor must sign this form and you must have the form in your portfolio. There's your rubric for the assessment of your mentor, and as you see there, there's the mark for the percentage. There's your rubric for the mentor when they look at the different levels, so there they will be able to get the percentages in order to assess you. Section 2, there's your marking rubric. And remember, these are the compulsory forms. You must make sure you've got the PR22 ERD, the PR23 ERD, the PR24 ERD, the PR26A ERD, your community service. That's that letter that you sign to give consent. Please include that as well. Otherwise, you'll lose 2 marks. Important notes on lesson observation. Your 5 lesson observations have to be completed. It's a requirement of the Mr. Tech and the DOE for the Grade R Diploma in Teaching. Students must do their practical in a school with an EMIS number. In other words, the school must be registered. Students need to observe a qualified Grade R teacher or foundation phase teacher for the RWIL practical. The mentor must be a qualified Grade R teacher or a foundation phase teacher. Students do not have to use a computer to generate evidence for all the tasks in the PoE, but need to use it for some to show evidence of computer skills. Please inform us if you have moved to another school since your enrollment with Northwest University. Then a new PR02 form will have to be completed. There is your observation of your lesson, the PR26. There it is. The form, okay. You'll need to make 5 copies of these because remember, these are your 5 lesson observations and will indicate the criteria that you will use to assess the lesson presented by the Grade R teacher. Make sure you understand the criteria prior to you doing the lesson observations. There's your marking rubric for section 2. So there you can again tick off all those forms so you make sure you include them all. Section 3. Task 1 and 2 of your portfolio goes into section 3. This is where you will file all the tangible evidence, your planning, your implementation, and your pictures presented to your mentor. In this section, you will show evidence of task 1 and task 2. So task 1, of course, is your math center. Then use a divider to separate it. And then task 2 is the case where you look at hyperactivity and the influence it has on the Grade R learners' writing skills. So there you go for Study Unit 2, Section A, the RWIL task, the 4 main components. You are planning and setting up your maths area or center. You are going to then be evaluated on the maths center through observation. You're also going to write a reflective report on your implementation of your maths center, and you'll find that in your RFLS 111. And then you need to use your computer skills for planning, designing of the resources, reporting on the planning and the implementation and evaluation. Then section 3 also, in your task 1, you need to divide the task according to the following components. So this is your maths center. Complete planning of the maths center, 1 topic from the maths progression, evidence of the implementation of the maths center. So you need to include photos, learners' work, your learning and teaching materials. Did you type a thorough report, including, so in your report you need to mention the introduction and background, so the purpose of a maths center in Grade R. Remember DAP, developmentally appropriate practice in maths, the implementation, so the planning, the role of the learner and the teacher, your observations. Then you need to put in the evaluation of a maths center based on your observation of the learner's behavior. Please don't forget in your findings to mention the strengths and the weaknesses and then provide a conclusion. So use the RMAT 171 textbook to get ideas and a better understanding of task 1, the maths center. And remember, for the maths center, you choose 1 topic and then you increase the difficulty level over the 5 days. Don't choose too many activities. Keep it simple. Your reflective report must include, as we spoke about, all those aspects that I spoke about earlier on. So please just look at the slide and make sure, again, tick off that you've covered all these points. You need to show progression using one topic. So there's an example. You're doing planning and sorting and ordering. So day one, they'll sort according to color. Day two, they might count how many of each color. Day three, you might get them to order from most to least. Day four, you might get them to order from least to most. And then on day five, you can do a little bit of data handling where they draw or design a little graph. And there are some examples. Then in your task 2, remember you're talking about hyperactivity. So there you're going to identify a learner with hyperactive behavior that may also be influenced by writing skills. Observe this learner during the school day for at least a week. List the problems you identify, and then you're going to answer in 4 different sub-questions. And there's an example from your RLSD and your RWIL and your RHYP, and you can link all those. So you need to link all those modules together when you talk about your learner with hyperactivity and writing difficulties. So you need to then identify the problem, give the age and the gender of the child, give some characteristics about what is hyperactivity. Also then talk about how it can influence their cognitive development, in other words, the thinking, the concentration, physical development, emotional development, and social development. So please write about those. Then, how this hyperactivity disorder influences the teaching of this learner. Do you have to change teaching methods? How do you assess the learner? And also, does the teacher's attitude play a role in allowing this learner to achieve in the classroom? Then you'd also need to mention the biographic details of the problem identified, the characteristics, and there it all is again. So this is just a repeat of the slide I've just discussed previously. So in section 3 then, question 2, you'll put your strategies for intervention as indicated in 1.3 and 1.4 of the IEP. Remember, that's the individual education plan, and you'll find that in the RWIL admin book. Also on page 162, there's an example. You must use the NWU IEP report and not the one used at your own school. So please look for that report and use that one. So based on the case study, design the IEP to show strategies of how you will help this learner who has handwriting barriers. And there's an example of the report, so please use that one. There it is again. And there you will write up that. Then, based on the RWIL 111, you're going to then design an eating plan suitable over 5 days to support the identified learner. Because sometimes we know with learners who are hyperactive, they may their problems might become worse if they have too much sugar. So you would look at including healthy food, fruit, those kinds of things, rather than sweets and chocolates. And there's your eating plan. So there are the examples. Look at your RLSD page 171. And then also there's some additional reading that we've provided for you. And then you can just write up the foods that this learner should be eating over the week. Then question 4, also in section 3, you need to give evidence. So it could be a photo of the learner's artwork, a photo of their scribbles, or if they try to write their names, and also the writing difficulty. So what we say then when we mean not pencil grip is a developmental phenomenon that happens as they are learning. So a lot of kids have a incorrect pencil grip. You need to look at a child that is really writing badly, and remember, look at your manual because there are lots of examples in there. Motivate why the sample indicates the learner has a handwriting difficulty, and then plan 2 different support activities for intervention to implement, and attach the evidence samples after intervention. So you need to show before and after. And then there's an example. If you refer to RHWP, They give you an example there about fine motor skills. I'm not going to read through the whole slide. You can have a look at that, but that will help you with question 4. And there's more. There's the evidence. Don't use pictures showing the children's faces, remember, unless you have consent. So rather take the picture like in that example, side view, or take the learner overhead so you only see the top of their heads and you don't see their faces. There's another example. So there's a you can use that, the overhead view. And there you go as well. Then you design the 2 different activities. You can see there the kid is colouring in. The second one, they're threading. So you can use an example and use your own ideas. There's another example where the kid is working with dough, Play-Doh, and there's another one where they're working on a pegboard. Sorry, the other one is flour and salt, not Play-Doh. So you can use something like that. And there you go. So you will attach pictures. A full explanation of task 1 and task 2 are in your RWIL study guide, study unit 2. There's the marking rubric for section 3. And then section 4, please remember, if you don't submit this, you will fail. Here you can put in any other evidence that links to professional practice. And with 5 of your items, give a little motivation of why you included this. So you could put in minutes of staff meetings, completed school documents, photos of events or visits, successful or unsuccessful activities. So showcase what you are doing in the classroom. Remember, you can take pictures and say, I did this activity, we read a story, the learners did this task. Show pictures of the task that they did. You may have had a fun day or a literacy day, or they may have gone on a visit or an outing to the zoo, and then they've come back to class and they've done a worksheet. So please include all that in section 4. It's very important that you do. And again, pictures, no children's faces. All 4 sections of the portfolio must be passed in order for you to achieve this module. So you will have to achieve 50% for each section. Please be aware of that. Important questions. Remember to schedule your 15 days, your 5 lesson times where you can watch. Please don't delay. As soon as all the schools are open again, get this done if you haven't done it already. Preparation for the next session. We're going to look at the marking rubric to ensure all the evidence required is included. So please complete your reflective journal, a 1-day reflection journal, a 1 academic module reflection, a 1 observation of a lesson, a 1 example of additional evidence, and some evidence that you have started task 1 and 2. So please start preparing for that. Thank you so much.